Hello everyone, welcome to Super Hits Movies. Today, I'm going to explain the movie Alpha 2018. This story takes us back 20,000 years, when humans were divided into small tribes. The story shows us the European people of those ancient times, who lived in tribes and hunted together. Here we are introduced to the leader of one such tribe, whose name was Ergun. A few months later, winter was approaching, so Ergun set out with his tribe members to hunt and collect enough food to survive the cold. In front of them stood a large herd of buffaloes. Everyone rushed toward the herd. Ergun, the leader, signaled to attack at the right moment. They all attacked together. To escape the hunters, the buffaloes began running in the opposite direction. Many of them fell into a deep valley, one after another. But one buffalo survived and, in its rage, charged at Ergun's son, Noyan. This was Noyan's first time joining the hunt, and he didn't know how to protect himself. Ergun shouted for his son to move out of the way, but Noyan panicked and ran clumsily. The furious buffalo ran straight at Noyan, lifted him with its horns, and carried him toward the valley. Seeing this, Ergun hurled a spear at the buffalo to save his son. The spear struck the animal, but even when wounded, the buffalo did not release Noyan. Instead, it tossed him over the edge of the valley. At this point, the story shifts into a flashback 1 week earlier. We see the tribe preparing for the great hunt. They were crafting sharp, pointed weapons from stone. This was not just preparation, it was also a test. Only those who could make proper weapons were allowed to join the hunt. The weapon that was the sharpest and strongest would be chosen for the hunt. In this competition, Ergun's son Noyan passed. That same night, Noyan's mother pleaded with Ergun. "Do not take Noyan with you on the hunt. He is still just a child. I love him dearly and cannot bear to lose him." But Ergun replied, "Winter is coming, and at this time of year, everyone must hunt. If we do not hunt, we will die of hunger in the cold. And Noyan must prove himself. He is my son." The next morning, all the tribesmen set out for the hunt. But Noyan's mother worried deeply, fearing something terrible might happen to her son. Ergun reassured her, "Do not worry, Noyan will be fine." Then they all left together. Not far along their journey, they encountered another tribe, also out hunting to gather food for the winter. After a long and difficult journey, both groups reached a massive stone structure. This monument had been built long ago by their ancestors. The path to reach it was dangerous, and many of their ancestors had lost their lives here. The stone structure was built in their memory. After moving on, they spot a wild boar and injure it with a spear. Ergun tells his son Noyan to finish it, but since Noyan had never hunted before, he becomes frightened and hesitates. When Noyan doesn't kill the boar, Ergun snatches the stone dagger from his hand and kills it himself. Then Ergun scolds his son. "I never thought you would be such a coward. Only the strong can survive here. This is the law of the jungle." Later that night, while they are eating their catch, strange noises are heard. Ergun immediately warns everyone to stay alert. Suddenly, a lion appears and drags one of the hunters away. The next morning, they make a small grave in memory of the boy who was taken and then continue their journey in search of prey. But even after traveling many miles, they do not find any animals to hunt. After walking the whole day, they decide to rest in a cave for the night. Inside the cave, Ergun carves star-shaped tattoos on Noyan's hand and tells him, "You will see these same stars in the sky at night. As long as you follow them, you will find your way home." It was, in fact, a kind of map, a guide to help anyone lost during the hunt return to their tribe. The next morning, they set out once again in search of prey and soon discover the fresh footprints of wild boars. Everyone feels excited and hopeful. They begin tracking the animals, and this leads back to the moment where Noyan is attacked by a boar and thrown off the mountain. The story now returns to the present. When Noyan was flung off the cliff, he managed to land on a narrow ledge, hanging desperately to a rock. Ergun quickly reached the edge and shouted to his son, "Don't lose hope, I will save you." But the stone Noyan was clinging to broke loose, and he fell. Fortunately, instead of the deep valley below, he landed on a lower, narrow path. Ergun wanted to climb down to rescue his son, but the tribesmen stopped him. They pleaded, "There is no way down from here. Your son is gone. We cannot lose you too. You are the leader of our tribe. It is your duty to protect us all and take us home." But Ergun refused to listen. He stayed all night on the same rock, calling out to his son. In the end, he was forced to accept that Noyan was no longer alive. The next morning, when Noyan did not return, the tribe built a small stone memorial in his memory. Then they carried their prey and headed back home. After some time, a vulture landed on Noyan's body, preparing to feed. But just as it pecked at him, Noyan's eyes suddenly opened. He shoved the bird away and cried out for his father, but no one answered. Realizing that everyone had left and no one would come to help, Noyan decided not to give up. He tried climbing the rock face but could not get very high. Below him was a deep ravine. Perhaps fate was giving him one more chance at life. Soon, heavy rain began to fall. The ravine below gradually filled with water, turning into a river. Noyan understood that if he wanted to live, he would have to jump. When the water grew deep enough, he leapt into it. But as soon as he hit the water, he lost consciousness. The next day, when he awoke, he found himself in a completely different place. He survived the jump, but his leg bone was twisted. He tied his broken leg with pieces of wood, which allowed him to walk again. Slowly, he made his way back to the cliff from where he had fallen. But when he reached there, he saw that his people had already built a grave for him. Realizing that his father Ergun and the entire tribe believed he was dead, Noyan broke down in tears. Suddenly, he heard strange sounds around him. Fearing danger, he quickly climbed a dry tree and spent the whole night up there. The next morning, as he went to drink water, he saw a pack of wolves rushing toward him. Some wolves attacked, and Noyan ran back to the tree. But one wolf managed to grab his leg. Noyan stabbed the wolf with his knife, injuring it, and quickly climbed back up the tree. The wolves surrounded him and waited all night. But when morning came, the pack had left. Only the injured wolf remained below, the same one he had stabbed the night before. Noyan sharpened a spear from wood with his knife, preparing to kill the wounded wolf. But when he approached, he felt mercy and decided not to. Instead, he tied the wolf's mouth with a cloth, picked it up, and carried it to the cave where his tribe had once stayed for a night. The next morning, he went out to search for herbs, ground them, and applied them to his injured leg. While drinking water later, he noticed the wolf had freed its mouth. At first, Noyan was afraid, but then he calmly approached and offered the wolf water. The wolf, frightened, stepped back, but Noyan gently said, "I won't hurt you. I just want to save your life." Hearing this, the wolf drank the water. The wolf slowly began to understand that Noyan meant no harm. Noyan then applied the same healing herbs on the wolf's head and shared his food with it. Over time, a bond began to form between them. That evening, Noyan hunted a rabbit, as he hadn't eaten in many hours. With great effort, he lit a fire, roasted the rabbit, and shared it with the wolf. Since both were badly injured, they stayed together in the cave for several days. One night, Noyan looked at the star tattoos his father Ergun had carved into his hand. Gazing at the stars in the sky, he whispered, "I must go home to see my parents." Then he told the wolf, "You should also return to your pack." The next morning, he prepared for the journey. He said to the wolf, "Go back before the snow begins." With that, he set out on his way. But to his surprise, the wolf, whom he now called Alpha, kept following him. No matter how far he walked, Alpha stayed behind him. Noyan tried several times to chase Alpha away, but the wolf refused to leave. Actually, the wolf had already grown attached to Noyan because Noyan had saved his life. One day, Alpha spotted a wild boar and tried to hunt it, but he failed. Noyan realized that Alpha was hungry, so he gave him some of the food he had collected for himself. This was the first time Alpha ate food directly from Noyan's hands. From that moment, their bond grew stronger. Now the two had become real friends. Soon after, Alpha managed to hunt a rabbit, which they shared for dinner before sleeping side by side that night. The next morning, Alpha licked Noyan's face to wake him up. As soon as Noyan woke, he laughed and said, "You smell terrible, Alpha." Then he playfully pushed Alpha into the river. Both of them bathed together in the water, and their Alpha even caught a fish to eat. Afterward, Nguyen continued on his journey. That night, as they sat by a fire, Alpha suddenly sensed something. Soon, more wolves appeared. It was Alpha's family. Nguyen understood right away. He gently told Alpha, "You should go with your family." Obeying him, the wolf left with the pack. The next morning, Nguyen set out on his journey once again, now alone. By this time, the cold had worsened, and heavy snow was falling everywhere. Struggling through the snow, Nguyen pressed forward. From a distance, he saw a group of wolves feeding on a dead animal, and among them was Alpha. But Alpha wasn't allowed to join the hunt. Recognizing him, Nguyen ran toward Alpha. At that moment, the snow beneath him suddenly cracked, and he fell through. It wasn't snow, it was a frozen lake. Nguyen was trapped under the ice, gasping for air. Alpha saw what had happened and sprinted toward him. He leapt onto the ice again and again, trying to break it, but the frozen layer was too thick. Nguyen was running out of breath. Desperate, he pulled out his knife underwater and struck the ice until it cracked open. At last, he broke through and dragged himself out of the freezing water. Once again, he and Alpha were reunited. Nguyen quickly lit a fire, removed his wet clothes, and warmed himself to stay alive. The next morning, Nguyen and Alpha resumed their journey together. A little further ahead, Nguyen spotted a man in the distance. Overjoyed, he rushed toward him, only to discover that the man had frozen to death. Heartbroken, Nguyen searched the man's tent but found nothing useful. He only took the man's arrows before moving forward. Soon, wild boars appeared, charging at them to attack. Nguyen and Alpha ran for their lives and escaped into a cave. But although they had escaped the boars, they had unknowingly entered the den of an even more dangerous predator. Actually, this cave belonged to a black panther. The panther suddenly attacked Nguyen, but before it could reach him, Alpha leapt in and intercepted the beast. A fierce fight broke out between the two. Seeing Alpha weaken during the struggle, Nguyen quickly aimed his arrow and shot the black panther, killing it. Alpha was saved, though badly injured. Nguyen gently applied ointment to Alpha's wounds, thanking him for saving his life and promising never to leave him again. The next morning, the two continued their journey. After traveling many miles, Nguyen finally discovered the remnants of the society his ancestors had built. Overjoyed, he realized he was still on the right path, and his tribe was not far away. Soon he would reach home, but before long Alpha collapsed. Weak from exhaustion and injuries, he could no longer walk. Without hesitation, Nguyen lifted Alpha in his arms and carried him forward. The snowstorm was raging, and Nguyen had already traveled for days, yet he refused to give up. Step by step, he pushed toward the tribe. At last, from a distance, he saw the village. At the same time, his father noticed someone approaching through the snow. After so many days, the sight of their home filled both father and son with overwhelming emotion. The tribe had long believed Nguyen to be dead, but now joy replaced grief as they welcomed him back. Barely conscious, Nguyen pleaded with his father to save Alpha. Hours later, when he opened his eyes, he was lying inside his home, surrounded by his parents and tribe members. Right beside him lay Alpha. But then came a surprise. Alpha had given birth to pups. Nguyen was stunned. All along, Alpha had been a female wolf, and despite being pregnant, she had stood by Nguyen at every step of the perilous journey. Overcome with emotion, Nguyen embraced Alpha, thanking her from the depths of his heart. Weeks later, Alpha's pups had grown stronger, running and playing around the village. This marked the beginning of a new era, an age where humans and animals learned to live as companions, not enemies. In the end, it is shown that after surviving countless hardships, Nguyen finally returned home, not alone, but with Alpha and her children by his side. And with that, the story ends. I hope you liked this movie. If so, then please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more such exciting content. Till then, stay safe and keep enjoying.